We finally have Chicago Blackhawks hockey this week after the All-Star break. Today we received a lot of information, a lot of updates regarding the roster from management, the players themselves, and everybody. It's nice to see the Blackhawks back together at practice, and it's going to be exciting to see what this team holds for the second half of the season. But we do have a lot of updates to talk about, so let's not waste any time and going to get right into this. But before we do, really quickly, we noticed that 83% of you guys watching right now are not subscribed to the channel. If you're looking for a spot to get all your Blackhawks news as it happens, make sure to hit the sub button. Join us along the Blackhawks road to the #1 overall pick. You won't want to miss what we have to talk about this season. But like I said, we're going to start this one off here with a lot of updates that we got after the return of the All-Star break. We obviously had a few yesterday regarding mainly Connor Bedard, but today from Luke Richardson and the rest of the management, we got a lot more updates on the injuries that this team had going into the All-Star break. So just really quickly, since we already touched on it, I'm going to go over the little bit we got from Connor Bedard today from Luke Richardson. He says the timeline for bones to heal is still not good enough for the game. It doesn't matter if you wear a bubble or not. The bubble could probably even hurt you more and do more damage in situations than without it. He'll have to get clearance from the doctor, which is the main part of this, that still on the doctor's terms is when Bedard returns. So for when he can start playing hard and putting pressure on everything, it's all going to be up to the doctor. But he's probably able to work harder and clench a little bit more, but I don't know if he's eating handfuls of nuts and stuff like that yet. So, still just shows there that there is a lot of stuff that will have to, be put back into this. He still is not ready just yet, but it is some very good signs that Bedard is getting back to normal, back healthy and everything. And Nick, how important do you think it is that Bedard gets in this lineup as quick as possible after his return? Obviously, without the rushing a return here.
I honestly don't think it's that important. I think he wants to come back, and everybody wants to see him back. But for the Blackhawks to franchise, they don't want to rush this at all, right? It's important to get him into games. He wants to play, keep him happy. But this is your asset, this is your future, right? This guy is the future of the league, his future of your team. You don't want to rush him back in the lineup because you could make it worse, right? We know this. We've been saying this for weeks. If you rush it, it's not a good idea, especially where you're trying to. Well, we're not. They're not allowed to say they're trying for the first overall pick, but that's what they're doing. So Connor Bedard, it's never a bad idea to put him in the lineup. It's never a bad thing to have him in the lineup, I should say. But to rush it would be the only bad idea here, really.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Couldn't have said it better myself. You want to get him back, but you don't want to rush it. And realistically, he's playing a bit too good for the Blackhawks right now. But no, in all seriousness, hope he does take his time. You don't want any re-injury. But now we get back to the other ones here. It's the group of players that have been injured for pretty much the entire season here. We start off with Tyler Johnson. The main trade target of this team right now, and the number one, the guy that people are going to be looking at from the Blackhawks going into the playoffs and the trade deadline. He is seems to be on track to return Wednesday against the Minnesota Wild after missing all of January with the foot injury. And, this is another huge return. Obviously, the Blackhawks, like I said, weren't going to be doing much at the trade deadline, if anything at all, but I think Tyler Johnson is that number one player that will be gone by the trade deadline, making the Blackhawks retain 50% on him, sending to any team that's really interested in him due to his mass amounts of experience that he's had in the playoffs, which is the big thing with Tyler Johnson here. So hopefully we see him start off great when he gets back after his injury and everything. A good game to start off against if he does return against the Wild. The Wild have been struggling pretty much this entire season. I think it would be on a good step forward on his first game if he can return. So, Nick, what do you think about Tyler Johnson as a trade target? We've discussed many teams are going to be looking at him due to his playoff experience in Tampa. But exactly how important do you think he is for some teams that are going to be looking to make that push? Let's just say like Vancouver.
Well, we touched on how Tyler Johnson could be helpful to a team as he can play up and down the lineup. He's played everywhere in that lineup, when he was scoring 60, 70 points in Tampa those couple of years back when he was a young player. And now he's a veteran, and he's been great in certain roles for Tampa Bay on that fourth line and even time on the third line and second line. He can come up and play wherever. He probably won't play second or third line now. He'll probably be a fourth line guy. But even out of the lineup, this is another thing I wanted to bring up. What Vegas did with Phil Kessel last year, it could even be a similar thing to that. Just have the guy. Obviously, it's depth. If someone gets injured, he can come in and play. But Phil Kessel not being in the lineup for any playoff games for Vegas last year, a lot of the guys touched on how helpful he was to that Vegas championship. and how he helped them get through certain things in the playoffs. I think Tyler Johnson can be a similar guy. He's had similar experience to Phil Kessel, a couple cups. And I think that's another area that he could be helpful, not only in the lineup, but in the locker room as well.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a huge one for, especially today's game, where the game's getting a lot younger. There's a lot more on the players on the younger side of the game, and who haven't really gone to a deep playoff run. Tyler Johnson, a player like him, is a rarity nowadays. Been to, I can't even count how many playoff runs and how many Stanley Cups he has. Players like that, whether you're on the ice or not, are integral to a championship run, a championship team, and teams are starting to realize that. Players like that get a lot more value than what people actually do initially think. So even though if Tyler Johnson don't play, which he still does have a lot left in him, he's been playing okay this season for the Blackhawks while he's been with them, even with how bad this team has been. I think that he's going to be a great trade target if teams do decide to, chase him in the trade deadline. But we have another update here. This time we have Jason Dickinson. Didn't skate this morning. A lot of worry when I seen that tweet from Charlie Romaniotis at practice. But he asked Luke Richardson afterwards. Jason Dickinson just took a maintenance day. He'll be back on the ice on Tuesday, which is a very good sign. This has been the number one guy on this team this season, apart from Connor Bedard. Maybe even above Connor Bedard in some people's books. He's been playing very well. Surprising a lot of people. Should have represented the Blackhawks at the All-Star game, but we just hope that he does continue this hot streak after this, the All-Star game break. And if he does, this is truly a season to remember for Jason Dickinson, and let's hope he does continue this. Going to the end of the season, you don't want to end it off on a high note. It'll also boost the spirits of all these players on the team that may not be playing up to the level they would like to, such as Lukas Reichel, who we are going to touch on later as well. And, it's a lot of help as a player, but also from, a whole team standpoint when you have this one guy, such as Jason Dickinson, in this lineup. But real quickly here, we've seen the lineup that they had at practice. Not too much of a change from what we've seen beforehand. Lukas Reichel on the third line here this time, but also keep in mind Jason Dickinson is not on this lineup, so that does change around a few spots when he does return to practice, what is presumptively to be tomorrow. But one more final thing here before we end this video off. We need to talk about Lukas Reichel. Is he on the hot seat going into the second half of the season? This is, I think, probably the biggest question in a lot of Blackhawks fans' minds, if Lukas Reichel is really ready for the NHL yet. Last season, it looked like he absolutely was. He was tearing it up. He was playing excellent. But now that Lukas Reichel has been struggling a lot this season, and we've seen him that this season wasn't what he wanted, is he on the hot seat? And, I think that there is a pretty good chance. Lukas Reichel hopes to emulate Jason Dickinson's simple keys to success for the rest of the season. We all can do what he does because it's a smart plays and hard work. This is from Ben Pope, an article here, and he says, a lot of just that Lukas Reichel's family, came over from Germany to visit him in this All-Star break. Hopefully, that kind of gets everything better. Hopefully that puts away all the homesickness and everything. But, Nick, I need to ask you this. Do you think Lukas Reichel is on the hot seat going into the second half of the season, threatening to be put in the AHL?
I really don't know, because that guy's seat couldn't have got hotter there for a while, back before the All-Star break, before Christmas and all that stuff. And recently we haven't been talking about it as much, but he is on the hot seat, I would say. But at the same time, I don't think Chicago is going to send him down. I don't think they're going to at this point. I think they'll just let him ride it out till the end of the season and try to get him that confidence back. Like, you can say whatever you want about how he played earlier in the season, but I think at this point now, where he's been there for so long, it's not the first time a young player has struggled and had to find his way again. Time in the AHL could be useful for him, but I really don't see Chicago doing that right now with all the injuries. They are getting some players back, like Tyler Johnson is going to come back eventually, and Bedard is going to come back, but I think he is on the hot seat, but I personally don't think they'll send him down.
Yeah, I really think it's being used as a threat, Like Luke Richardson said, he is too good for the AHL, and he's ready for the NHL, but he hasn't clicked this season. So I do hope that he can find it. He is supposed to be the number 2 in this organization, really, that's currently there for the future. He's supposed to be that guy after Connor Bedard, and we haven't seen it this season. So I do understand the worry. I understand that a lot of people are concerned that he's not producing where he wants to be, but it's really hard to judge a player like that with the team right now that is currently struggling as a whole. Not just a player here and there, but the whole team, except for Petr Mrazek, Jason Dickinson, Connor Bedard. Realistically, those are the three that haven't found any struggles this season. So I think there is a lot of time for him to be back to what he was, giving him time to be ready there. And last coming off before the All-Star game, he was playing really well. The last game and the game before that, he was playing very solid. It's the Lukas Reichel that we've seen before this season started. So hopefully he'll continue this on a hot streak once again, like this team. If they start off good, that'll be perfect. And I think that it'll be a good sign if they do. I really don't think they're going to be winning many games still as they are this season. I think that it's still going to be a pretty rough go, but as long as this team can play well like they have been for the recent bit before the All-Star game, they've been playing well. They just haven't been able to score. If they can, play that way, I think that we're going to be in good shape for the rest of the season. But I want to know what you guys think. Lukas Reichel, that's the biggest question on this team right now. But that's pretty much what we have to figure out what's going to be solved at this point. But Nick, you got anything before we finish this off?
Yeah, I think you really want to get Lukas Reichel's offensive production up, and mostly everybody, but Lukas Reichel in particular, because he's supposed to be that guy. Obviously you're not getting Taylor Hall back this year. I don't know. He'll probably be back next year and healthy and whatever to help out on the offense the way he can. I think that was the reason he was kind of brought in, was to kind of avoid the offensive embarrassment. So if you can kind of get the scoring up in the second half of this season, you can kind of avoid the defensive embarrassment and keep the games. Not all of them are going to be close, but you don't want to be losing games 6 and 7-0 or 8-2 or whatever. If you can lose games like 4-2, 3-2, 5-4, anything like that, I think that's a lot better than getting blown out. And offensive production would definitely do that for the Blackhawks right now, considering Petr Mrazek's play. I think in the second half, that's going to be something you're going to watch for.
No, you're absolutely right. This team does have glimmers of hope. You can see it when their games, like you said, the ones that they are close, and even if they can get a few goals here and there, they could probably even win the game. It's a good sign. There's lots of hope in this team, and you can see it, and it's going good. Let's just say that. It's gonna struggle for a bit. They're gonna struggle for a bit, but it's going good. But like I said, let me know what you think about Lukas Reichel and all of these injuries as well down below. We'd like to hear it. But that's all we got. Hope you have a great day. Thank you for watching. See you later.